Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, please accept my respectful greetings. All grace to His confounder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, grace to Sri Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, SRIVAS VANACARI Prabhu, for honoring this invitation. We're very much blessed to have you today.
I say my humble obeisances. All glories to Gurudev and all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis present in this audience.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
So, dear devotees, welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we are honored. We have our own mentor, our own guide, our own senior person is Grace SRIVAS VANACARI, who is going to be speaking to us on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's a great pleasure to have him here. So we request each and every one of us to be attentive and listening very carefully to the class. So Prabhu, if you're ready, we'll put the verse on the screen and you can start.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, great.
I should not touch it.
No, let put them down.
It's okay. It's all right.
You cannot get towards the wall.
Hmm?
You can touch with the wall. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No problem.
Narayana namaskritya narachaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat nashtapraya sabhadresu nityam bhagavatam sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhakti bhavati naistiki Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, verse 12. Yanmasya lilopayikam swayoga maya balam darshayata grihitam Vishmapanam swasya cha saubhagada gade param padam bhushana bhushanangam yanmasya lilopayikam swayoga maya balam dashayata grihitam Vishmapanam swasya cha saubhagade Param padam bhushana bhushanangam yanmatsya lilopayikam swayogam maya bhalam dashayata grihitam vishmapanam swasya cha sobhagade param padam bhushanangam. Word for word translation. Yet his eternal form, which Marcia, mortal world, Lila Upayikam, just suitable for the pastimes. Swa Yoga Maya Balam, potency of the internal energy. Darashayata, for manifestation. Grihitam, discovered. Vishmapanam, wonderful. Swasya, of his own. Cha, and. Saubhagadehe, of the opulent. Param, supreme. Padam, ultimate stand. Bhushana, ornaments. Bhushana Angam, of the ornaments. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Vedanta Swami Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yoga Maya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. These pastimes were wonderful for everyone, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself. in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, his Sri Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In conformity with the Vedic hymns, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam, the personality of Godhead is more excellent than all other living beings within all the universes in the material world. He is the chief of all living entities. No one can surpass him or be equal to him in wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, or renunciation. When Lord Krishna was within this universe, he seemed to be a human being because he appeared in a manner just suitable for his pastimes in the mortal world. He did not appear in human society in his Vaikuntha feature with 4 hands because that would not have been suitable for his pastimes. But in spite of his appearing as a human being, no one was or is equal to him in any respect in any of the 6 different opulences. Everyone is more or less proud of his opulence in this world. But when Lord Krishna was in human society, he excelled all his contemporaries within the universe. When the Lord's pastimes are visible to the human eye, they are called prakata. And when they are not visible, they are called aprakata. In fact, the Lord's pastimes never stop, just as the sun never leaves the sky. The sun is always in its right orbit in the sky, but it is sometimes visible and sometimes invisible to our limited vision. Similarly, the pastimes of the Lord are always current in one universe or another. And when Lord Krishna disappeared from the transcendental abode of Dwaraka, it was simply a disappearance from the eyes of the people there. It should not be misunderstood that his transcendental body, which is just suitable for the pastimes in the mortal world, is in any way inferior to his different expansions in the Vaikuntha lokas. His body manifested in the material world is transcendental par excellence, in the sense that his pastimes in the mortal world excel his mercy displayed in the Vaikuntha lokas. In the Vaikuntha lokas, the Lord is merciful toward the liberated or nitya mukta living entities. But in his pastimes in the mortal world, he is merciful even to the fallen souls who are nitya bada, or conditioned forever. The 6 excellent opulences which he displayed in the mortal world by the agency of his internal potency, Yogamaya, are rare even in the Vaikuntha lokas. All his pastimes were manifested not by the material energy, but by his spiritual energy. The excellence of his Rasa Lila at Vrindavan and his householder life with 16,000 wives is wonderful, even for Narayan Vaikuntha, and is certainly so for other living entities within this mortal world. His pastimes are wonderful, even for other incarnations of the Lord, such as Sri Ram, Narasingha, and Varaha. His opulence was so super excellent that his pastimes were adored even by the Lord of Vaikuntha, who is not different from Lord Krishna himself. Om Jnana Timiridasya Jnanam Jnanashalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavansya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastambitam Tam Sanjivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Sya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashri Tatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvase Sasunyavadi Pasachade Satarini Vancha Kalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Ivacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratvize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendo Rasuda Pranavalabhar Janavir Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prada Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavam Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gora Kele Varaha Advaitam Harinadvaita Racharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Samarveta Acharya Shraye Panchatattamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajagraye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Sarato Pangho Mama Madhirgatima Sarvaswa Padam Bhujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divya Rindaranya Kalpadurmada Srimad Radhagara Simhastanastao Srila Govinda Deva Pristyali Visevya Manasmarami Shrimam Rasa Rasarambi Vam Sivata Tata Stita Karsan Venu Swanai Gopi Gopinath Sriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Manisha Banusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Devi Krishnamai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarvam Lakshmi Mahi Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Siva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yoga Maya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. These pastimes were wonderful for everyone, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, his Sri Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments.
L'homme de Moto, il est parti. Ouais, il est parti à 15h30. 15h30.
Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam.
Sorry, it's Grace Sivas Funashari. You can unmute yourself. I think I mistakenly muted you. Sivas Baru, please could you unmute yourself? Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So everyone is welcome to today's class. And before we proceed to say something with regards to this verse, we first of all seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis so that we can say something relevant to our spiritual progress and probably for the benefit of the audience. So, in this verse, a number of important points have been raised. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yoga Maya. That means when the Lord appears in the material world, he is not part of the material world. Even though he descends into the material atmosphere, but he is is not affected by the material world. Why? Because he comes in his original form, his original transcendental form. He comes in his spiritual form. So he says he came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. And these pastimes are wonderful for everyone, even including the Lord himself. And that means the Lord's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions a similar point in the Chaitanya Charitamrita when he says, Nayakanam Shiro Ratnam Krishna stus Bhagavan Swayam. It says that Krishna is the crown hero of all heroes. In other words, Krishna's form, Krishna's name, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's activities, they are all of a transcendental nature. Krishna Nam, Krishna Gun, Krishna Lila, Krishnera Sarupena, Sarvachit Ananda, Krishna's name, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's form, all of these are transcendentally the same, and they are of a blissful spiritual nature. So therefore, when the Lord descends into the material world, it should be understood that even though he has appeared in the material world, but he has come in his original form. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 6, Krishna mentions this. He says, Prakritim swam adishtaya sambhavami adma mayaya. It says, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Krishna confirmed this himself in the Bhagavad Gita. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. I descend into the material world in my original form. in my transcendental form. So therefore, Krishna's descent into the material world does not reduce in any way his spiritual power, his transcendental nature, his transcendental activities. Material nature has no influence on Krishna because material nature is working under Krishna's direction. Maya dakshana prakriti suyate sachara charam. Material nature is working under Krishna's direction. Material nature is under Krishna's control. Material nature does not have any effect on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, when the Lord appears in the material world, it should not be considered to be under the effects of Maya. Krishna is completely transcendental. Whether he is in the spiritual world or he is in the material world, it does not matter. His location does not affect him. Neither his ashram or even his social status, his varna, so-called. Sometimes Krishna takes birth in the family of Brahmanas. Sometimes Krishna takes birth in the family of Kshatriyas. I mean, sometimes in the family of Vaishyas. Or even sometimes in lower species like animals, like the Varaha incarnation, like the Kurma incarnation, like the Matsya incarnation, like the horse incarnation. Even though he accepts these so-called lower forms, but he still remains transcendental. So whatever form the Lord assumes in order to execute his mission in the material world, it should be understood that the Lord remains transcendental. Therefore, Lord Brahma, in his Samhita, in his glorification, in his song of glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma sings Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karanam Karanam. There is no one superior to Govinda. He is the ultimate source and the cause of all causes. That is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to him, and no one is superior to him. And Krishna confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita. Mata param taram nanyat. Krishna says there is no truth superior to him. There is no truth superior to him. there is nothing superior to Krishna because he's the ultimate. He's the source of everyone else. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matarvam pravartate. Both the spiritual and material worlds, they all emanate from Krishna. And so the residents of the spiritual world as well as the material world, they all emanate from Krishna. They all originate from Krishna. So therefore, no one can be equal to him because he's the cause of everyone. Neither can someone become superior to him. So that is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, when Krishna empowers his devotee can occupy a superior position. Actually, Krishna enjoys taking a subservient position before his devotees. That is the beauty of love. Because the Lord loves his devotees, and because the devotees love the Lord, due to the reciprocation of this love, Krishna accepts a subordinate position. Krishna becomes the gatekeeper of Bali Maharaj. Krishna becomes the charioteer of Arjuna. Krishna becomes the marriage arranger of Kadarma Muni. So many instances, Krishna takes an inferior position, not because it's inferior, but because the love of the devotee is so wonderful to Krishna. Krishna relishes the love from the devotee that Krishna accepts to take an inferior position. Of course, the devotee does not think that now he is superior to Krishna, he has become God. The devotee never thinks like that. Even though Krishna accepts such a devotee as superior to him, and Krishna accepts instructions from such a devotee, but a devotee, out of his love, simply wants to offer more love to Krishna. And so there is a reciprocation, an ongoing reciprocation. The devotee gives more love to Krishna, and Krishna reciprocates to that love with more love. So in this way, there is an unlimited competition between the devotee and the Lord. The devotee wants to give Krishna much more love, and Krishna wants to give much more love. In this way, there is no limit to the love that a devotee can have for Krishna. So therefore, even though Krishna may accept an inferior position, subordinate position before his devotee, but a devotee does not think that he has become God. Therefore, he said here, no one can surpass the Lord in excellence. No one. No one. Parama Ishwara Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Tate Bada Tanra Sama Kehe Nahi Ana. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is the greatest of all. No one is equal to him, nor is anyone greater than him. Nor can anyone ever be greater than the Lord. It's not possible. Krishna's position is unique. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. Ekale Iswara Krishna Ara Sarva Britya. Ekale. Ekale means he's the only supreme Lord. He's the only supreme being. And all others are servants. Even Lord Balaram, who is said to be the first expansion of Krishna, and there is literally no differences or distinction between Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna except the color and the dressing. Yet, Lord Balaram sees himself as the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he is described as the servant Godhead. And therefore, he expands as Mahasankrashan, as Mahavishnu, as Garbhodakashai Vishnu, as Shirodakashai Vishnu, and as Anantasesha, just to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Balaram expands in 5 ways to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, it is said that Balaram is the only personality who serves the Lord in all the 5 races. In order to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in all the 5 races, Balaram expands into Ananga Manjari. Ananga Manjari is an expansion of Balaram in order to serve Krishna in conjugal love, in Madhurya Ras. So even Balaram, who is said to be none different from Krishna, he accepts the position of a servant. And he served the Supreme Lord in every respect. So therefore, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when he descends into this material world, he descends in his original form. He comes in his spiritual form. It doesn't mean because he has descended in the material world, he's less. No. He is still the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manusham Deham Astitaha Bhajate Tadrishik Krida Yashruta Tatparo Bhavat. When the Lord assumes a human-like body to show mercy to his devotees, he engages in such pastimes as will attract those who hear about them to become dedicated to him. So when the Lord descends in his most beautiful form, in the human form, in the 200 form, it should be understood that Krishna comes in this form in order to attract the conditioned souls. Anugrahaya Bhaktanam. Anugrahaya means mercy, compassion, out of his mercy, out of his compassion for the devotees, Bhaktanam, he descends in this form just to enhance their devotional service, just to attract them more and more and more. Just as we see how the residents of Vrindavan, they were all attracted to Krishna. Aho bhajam, Nanda Vraja Kusham. The residents of Vrajabhumi, the residents of Nanda Maharaj's village, they were so fortunate. Their fortune cannot be estimated. Aho, how great. Bhagyam, their fortune is. Aho, how great. Bhagyam, their fortune is. So the residents of Vrindavan, their fortune is so great that they had Krishna as their darling boy. Krishna was a cynosure. Krishna was a center of attraction, center of activity. Everybody loved Krishna. Even the animals of Vrindavan, they love Krishna. Even the birds of Vrindavan, they love Krishna. Even the trees of Vrindavan, they love Krishna. Even the lands of Vrindavan, they love Krishna. Even the water of Vrindavan loves Krishna. Everyone was attracted to Krishna. That is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, Sanajiva Goswami says, when the Lord descends to this world in his original two-handed form, out of his kindness, he manifests that form in a way his devotees in human society can understand him. When Krishna appeared from the womb of Devaki, he appeared in the form of Narayan. He appeared in a Vaikuntha form with 4 hands, fully grown hair, decorated, fully decorated with all the weapons and insignia of Lord Narayan, with bangles, with Kaustubha jewel. He was fully decorated. Somebody may ask the question, why didn't the Lord do that? Because it is said here, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam, he appears in a human form for the mercy of his devotees, for the out of compassion for the devotees, to attract the devotees. But then why does he appear in the Narayan form before his parents, Devaki and Vasudeva? The answer is he wanted to convince them that the Lord had come. Because if Krishna had from the beginning appeared just like an ordinary child with 2 hands, probably Devaki and
Thank you, sir.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Devaki
It's a very nice
and
video. Ever seen.
I'll keep you
Vasudeva
I find out. I'll text you.
Thank you.
might have
Thank you.
misunderstood him, might have taken him for an ordinary child, because they have already brought forth many children that were killed by cancer. So Krishna wanted to confirm his promise that he is going to take birth in their family. So he wanted to register strongly in their minds that he has come. So first of all, he showed that extraordinary feature of the form of Narayan from Vaikuntha. And immediately, Devaki and Vasudeva could understand the Supreme Lord had appeared in their family as their own son. And when that was done, immediately the Lord changed. He transformed himself into a little 200 baby after he had instructed his parents what to do. So the 200 form is most wonderful. In fact, it is said, Vishnu Chakravarti says that 200 form is most suitable for the Lord's conjugal pastimes. It's most suitable for the Lord's conjugal pastimes. In Vaikuntha, there is Manjuriya Ras, but it is inferior to the Manjuriya Ras in Goloka. In Goloka, the Manjuriya Ras there is Parakya Ras. And in Vaikuntha, the Manjuriya Ras there is Swakiya Ras. Swakiya means marriage, where the partners, husband and wife, they get married, officially get married. But in Parakya Ras, there is no marriage. There is paramour. Paramour. And that is superior to Swakiya. So therefore, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti says that this 200 form of the Lord is more suitable for the conjugal relationship, particularly the Parakya Ras, Parakya Madhurya Ras. So Krishna excels everyone in the 6 opulences. No one can compete with the Lord in his 6 opulences. No one. No one. Both in the material and spiritual worlds. Even though the living entity can enjoy the same wealth like the Supreme Lord, you know, when we talk about the 5 types of liberations, Shasti, Mukti, the living entity enjoys the same wealth, the same opulence that the Supreme Lord. Still, there is a difference. It is the Lord who gives that wealth to the living entity. And so as many as living entities are there, the Lord is empowering them with the wealth, opulences. But where are the opulences coming from? They are coming from Krishna. So therefore, the totality of all the wealth, the totality of all the opulences. So even though the living entities may enjoy the same opulence like the Lord, but it should be understood that the living entity is enjoying this opulence by the way of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, he is the source, he is the ocean, he is the cause of all these opulences. And no one can equate with the Lord, or no one can surpass the Lord in any way. So the 200 form of the Lord is amazing. It's amazing. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Krishnera Yateka Kela Sarvotamam Nara Lila Naravapu Tahara Swarupa Gope Vesha Venu Kara Nava Kishoria Natavara Nara Lilaya Haya Anurupam. That the form of the Lord that descends into the material world to perform the various pastimes, the form that looks like a human being, the form in the human form is the best. His human form, his form as a human being is the transcendental, the supreme transcendental form. In this form, he's a cowhead boy. He carries a flute in his hand, and his youth is new. He is also an expert dancer. And all these is just suitable for his pastimes in this world. In fact, there was a debate between Vallabha Acharya and Lord Chaitanya. Vallabha Acharya, he comes from South India. And in South India, the Narayan forms are considered the highest forms of the Lord. And that is considered the ultimate form of the Lord. They even say that the form of Krishna comes from the Narayan forms. That is, they are Vaishnavas, the Sri Sampradaya, and other Vaishnava Sampradayas. They accept the Narayan form as the supreme form. So when Lord Chaitanya met Vallabha Acharya, there was an intense argument. But eventually Vallabha Acharya accepted that the 200 form of Krishna is the best form. Shamam Iva Rupa Madhu Puri Varaha. That the form of Shamashundra, the 200 form of Shamashundra, is the most worshipable form, is the sweetest form. And therefore, anyone who wants to experience the highest bliss should worship that form. And Vallabha Acharya agreed that actually, if the Vaikuntha forms, the Narayan forms, were superior to the 200 form of Krishna, why would Lakshmi Devi, the consort of Narayan, leave Vaikuntha, leave her consort, Narayan in Vaikuntha, and descends to Braj, to Vrindavan, wanting to participate in Krishna Rasa dance? The Rasa dance was so sweet. The Rasa dance was so intense. The Rasa dance was so blissful that Lakshmi Devi lost her concentration in serving Lord Narayan. He came to Vrindavan wanting to participate in the Rasa dance, and she was disqualified because Vrindavan is a place of simplicity. But Lakshmi Devi comes there with the aura of opulence, and therefore she was disqualified. And so it is said that Lakshmi Devi is still performing austerities in Badiravan in order to qualify herself to participate in Krishna Rasalila. So even Lakshmi Devi of Vaikuntha gave up the company of her husband in Narayan in order to participate in the sweet, glorious activities of the 200 form of Krishna. So therefore, it has to be understood that when the Lord descends in this 200 form, that is the best form for meditation. Kaishorya Dhyayam. Kaishorya Ka Dhyayam. The youthful form of the Lord is a form that one should meditate upon. Krishna's youthful form, Krishna's 200 form, Krishna's Samasundra form, that is the form one should meditate upon. And particularly when Lord Krishna manifests in Vrindavan, he gives such sweetness, incomparable sweetness. Krishnasya Punatamata Vyaktabud Gokulantare Punata Punataranta Dwaraka Mathura Dishu. The most complete qualities of Krishna are manifested in Vrindavan. His complete qualities are manifested in Dwaraka, and his more complete qualities or opulences are manifested in Mathura. So that means the most complete opulence of Krishna is manifested in Vrindavan when Krishna is in his 200 form. The 200 form of Krishna manifests the sweetest pastimes. It manifests the complete pastimes, irresistible pastimes. And that is what the acharyas recommend for our meditation. Vraje Krishna Sarveshwarya Prakashe Punatama Puridhwaye Parovyama Punatara Purna. Krishna is complete in the spiritual sky of Vaikuntha. He is more complete in Mathura and Dwaraka, and he is most complete in Vrindavan due to his manifesting all of his sweet opulences in Vrindavan. Lord Krishna is most complete Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. Elsewhere, his expansions are either complete or more complete. So that is the beauty and the sweetness and the attraction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, especially in his human form. We hear of the story of Mahavishnu wanting to see this Nara form, Nara Leela, And because of that, Mahavishnu constantly took away a Brahmana's child in Dwaraka. And as a result, the Brahmana was so frustrated with the Kshatriyas because this was happening in Dwaraka in Krishna's presence. And Krishna did not do anything. So when Arjuna heard of it, he boasted. He said, I shall protect your son. Next time your wife is pregnant and is about to deliver, call me. My Gandiva bow never fails. Whoever is responsible for killing your child, I will stop that person. The Brahmana said, look, don't boast, because even Krishna, Dwarkanath Krishna, could not save my child from death. And you, Arjuna, you are now coming to tell me that you can save my child? And Arjuna said, you don't worry about Krishna. I have the Gandiva bow, and this Gandiva bow never fails. Forget about Krishna. I will save your child. And if I don't save your child, I will enter fire. So when Arjuna spoke like this, the Brahmana believed him. And so he accepted his words. And so when the wife was about to deliver, Arjuna was summoned. And Arjuna came running with his bow, Gandiva, and his quiver that never exhausts. And he was at the gate waiting for that personality who would come and take away the Brahmana's son. But as soon as the child was born, as soon as the child was delivered, as soon as the child appeared from the womb of his mother, he cried, and that was the end. His soul was gone, and Arjuna could not save the child. With his Gandiva bow and his inexhaustible quiver of arrows, he could not protect this child. And so the Brahmana was so upset. Said, people told me I should not depend on you, but I was foolish enough to accept your words. Now here I am, so disappointed. So Arjuna had no choice but to enter fire. At that point, Krishna appeared on the scene and said, my dear Arjuna, there's no need for you to enter fire. I will save you. I know where the child is. I will take you there, and we will come back with the child. And Krishna immediately yoked his powerful horses, transcendental horses, on his transcendental chariot, mounted on it with Arjuna, and they went in the northern direction. And these horses, they are not ordinary horses. They were traveling at the speed of the mind. They penetrated the covering of the universe, which was very dark. The horses were reluctant to enter into the darkness of the covering of the universe. Krishna had to release his chakra to cut through the covering of the universe, to allow the horses and the chariot to go through. And then when they came out of the universe, everywhere was bright light. Arjuna could not open his eyes to see the Brahmajyoti. And then Krishna told Arjuna, this is the light coming from my body. This is the uplands of Brahmajyoti, of the Vaikuntha world. This light is coming from me. And then they went to Mahavishnu Loka. And Mahavishnu was so glad. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Dvijama jame yuvayo dridashna mayo panita bhuvi dharma guptaye kalava trimnau avane barushuran hatve ha bhuyastarayatam antime. These are the words of Mahavishnu. He said, I brought the Brahmana sons here because I wanted to see the two of you together. You have descended to the earth to save the principles of religion. And as soon as you finish that assignment, you should quickly come back. But I wanted to see the two of you together. And that is why I constantly took away the Brahmana's son. So as Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, even the Lord of Vaikuntha is attracted to see the Nara Lila, the human form of the Lord. Those activities in the human form, Mahavishnu wants to see that form. And other incarnations as well. They are all attracted to this beautiful form of Krishna. And this form is described in the Vishnu Sahasranam. Suvrata, Sumukha, Shukshma. Shugusho, Shukada, Suhirit. Manohara, Yitokrodo, Virabahu, Vidaranaha. Shuvrata, Shumukha, Shukshma. Krishna's face, Krishna's form, Krishna's beauty, Krishna's flute, Krishna's activities, they attract the mind. Manohara Jita Krodo. They attract the mind. They capture the mind. And anyone whose mind is captured by the beauty of Krishna, he becomes a joyful person. He conquers the three worlds. He escapes death. He becomes a resident of the spiritual world. So this process of Krishna consciousness that we have been given, it's a very wonderful process for delivering every living entity. And so we have such a valuable gift within our reach. We have such a valuable gift in our palms. We just have to become more serious, more committed, more determined to achieve this wonderful, wonderful form, wonderful opportunity. Krishna Sambandha Bhakti Abhideya. Krishna Sambandha Bhakti Abhideya Prema Prayojana. Krishna is the source of all relationships. Krishna Sambandha, he is the source of all relationships and he's the ocean of all knowledge. The process of bhakti is a process by which we can connect with Krishna. Bhakti Abhideya. And Prema Prayojana, the final result, the ultimate goal of the practice of bhakti is to develop love for Krishna. And anyone who is able to come to this platform, you are the most fortunate. Jivan Jiva, you are the most fortunate. So we are actually all fortunate because we are all linked to this process. And if we just take it a bit more seriously, we shall be happy devotees. We shall be jolly devotees. We shall relish Krishna consciousness, even though we are still in this material world. Just as the Lord's form is transcendental, anyone who is engaged in the Lord's service, anyone who is constantly chanting the Lord's names, he also becomes transcendental. Harihi nirguna shakshat. Tam bhajam nirguna bhavat. Harihi nirguna shakshat. The Lord is transcendental. The Lord is situated on his transcendental platform. And anyone who worships him, tam bhajam nirguna bhavat. Anybody who worships him, anybody who associates with him, he also becomes nirguna. He becomes free from the most. He becomes transcendentally situated. That is the gift Srila Prabhupada has given us. That is the gift Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us. And if we chant this holy name seriously and regularly, attentively, this wonderful form of Krishna is present in the holy name, and he will manifest before us. Hare Krishna. So any comments or questions? We end here. I think we've gone beyond 1 hour. So any comments or questions? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Grace and SRIVAS VANACARI Prabhu. Thank you very much. Yes, we also are lost because you were lost in the bar of the pastimes of. So we also got lost. We lost the count of time.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And it is very appropriate because in the next couple of days, actually, in about 6-7 days, we'll be celebrating the appearance of the Lord. So this verse and this lecture comes very handy to relieve, give us opportunity to relive the memories of the Lord and to remember his purpose of descent. Thank you very much for the depth of knowledge shared with us. We're most very grateful. So dear devotees, if anyone has a question or comments, please kindly indicate by using the hand emoji or physically raise your hand so we can call you to ask a question. So, Srivas Prabhu, while we're waiting for the devotees to indicate there, I have a question.
All right.
At the beginning of the lecture, you mentioned the Krishna's unique. You repeatedly mentioned the word Atma Mahaya.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the lecture, you were emphasizing on that point, that his birth is not like our birth.
Yeah.
Although he's coming, but his birth is not uniquely. So, but sometimes those who are non-devotees,
yeah,
in their own way, because as we celebrate the appearance of the Lord now, how do you explain to, let me use the word neophyte, about this uniqueness of the Lord's appearance as Atma Mahaya? Because apparently, when Krishna appeared, he had to be out of fear. The mother and the father had to hide him. They had to go and hide him somewhere. He went through all kinds of attack. Krishna was able to, so someone could say it's just an extraordinary child. We have so many. So how do we differentiate the extraordinary manifestation of Krishna's activities from that of an ordinary living entity who has some power or potency.
Yes. We can differentiate because Krishna's activities are extraordinary. From the very moment Krishna appeared in this world, he was different. And actually, that was one of the reasons why Krishna appeared in a Narayan form. So that even though later on he transformed himself into an ordinary child, 200 form of child, yet it registered strongly that he wasn't an ordinary child because he appeared in the Vishnu form, in the Narayan form, with all the paraphernalia, the insignia of Narayan, fully decorated, dressed in yellow garments. There has never been an instance when a child is born fully decorated. There have never been an instance when a child is born with 4 hands, carrying the weapons of Vishnu, wearing the Kaustubha jewel. Never had ever there been a chance for such a birth. So Krishna distinguished himself from all other children by first appearing as Narayan. So this was to convince his parents, as well as convince the whole world that he is different. And then he instructed his parents. We have not heard that a child is born speaking, a child is born giving instructions to the parents. No. Every child is born ignorant. He comes out of the womb confused. The only thing he can do is to cry very loudly because he has come into a different environment, different atmosphere. Krishna did not cry loudly when he came out of his mother's womb. Krishna appeared in his most wonderful form and spoke to his parents. He instructed his parents. And then, even though he transformed himself into a 200 ordinary child, but let us examine some of the activities of this child. When Vasudeva carried the child, all the doors in Kamsa's prison, they automatically flung open. They were locked. They were bolted. But when Vasudeva carried Krishna and wanted to leave the prison house as instructed by Krishna, mysteriously, all the doors opened. Mysteriously, all the soldiers, the security, they fell asleep. And it was raining. But Krishna wasn't touched by the rain. Immediately, Anantasesha Balaram covered Krishna with his hoods so that the rain would not touch Krishna. And when Vasudeva reached the Yamuna, he had to cross the Yamuna in order to go to Gokul. The Yamuna was overflooded because it was raining very heavily. And as soon as Vasudeva stepped into the Yamuna, it gave him way. The water receded to a level that Vasudeva could walk across very easily in order to take Krishna to Gokul. We have not heard of these things when it comes to ordinary children. And then, when Krishna was just about 3 months old, this great demon, Putana, the sister of Bakasura, she came with poisonous nipples to kill this child. But what do we witness? She was rather killed. The poison was sucked by this little child along with her life air, and she fell dead. So we can see that even though Krishna transformed himself into an ordinary child, but his transcendental nature, his potency, his power was intact. As Prabhupada will say, God is always God. Whether he comes as a baby, whether he comes as a matured man, whether he comes as an animal, or whatever form he takes, his potency is the same. So even though he was a little baby, but he was controlling the whole universe. He was controlling the affairs of the universe. Everything was working according to his plan. There is no child born under the sun that controlled the forces of the universe, controlled the laws of the universe. We have not heard. So therefore, we can give some of these evidences why Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though he appeared as an ordinary child of Mother Yashoda, Mother Devaki. He was a complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knew everything, past, present, and future. He had the whole material world under his control. Whatever he wanted to do, he would do. So that is Krishna. I don't know whether I've attempted to answer your question.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. It's wonderful the way you've answered the question. There are uncommon activities of Krishna that makes him Krishna, no doubt.
That's right.
When you have a comparative discussions about religion and the incarnations of God and the categories of incarnations of God, a devotee is blessed. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the 6 types of incarnation to Srila Rupa Goswami, and when he was teaching, and he gave several signs to say them. Recently, I was having a conversation in regards to incarnations of God. There is, I wouldn't know whether you know of this, there is this particular personality whom I believe is probably one of the, according to the Vedic understanding, maybe Avish Avatara, because Shakti Avish are a different category. Okay. I would describe the particular personality. He is the founder of the Cherubim and Seraphim, the White Garment Church. When he was born in one of the western states of Nigeria, before he was born, he would talk to his mother while in the womb. When the mother is alone, he will have conversation with the mother. Initially, the mother will wonder who is talking to her. She will look around. After some time, she came to realize that the baby in the womb is talking to her. And then, because it's a remote environment, sometimes the mother goes to the village, to the farm to carry logs of wood, and then she will help the mother. The story recounts that when he was eventually born, he was not born the normal months of the time that the child was born. He exceeded with extra 4 months. But when eventually he was born, right as he came out from the womb of the mother, Krishna never came from the and the way ordinary living entity is given birth to, according to the Krishna book Prabhupada gave us. But this particular was given birth to, and right in the pool of the blood, he stood up on his two legs and he was talking. And his father, who happens to be a traditional head of the environment, is a traditionalist. He was called to the arena that an abominable situation has happened. How can we give birth to a child? And he stood up right in the blood and he started talking to the mother. He started talking and he started. So according to the history of St. Moses Orimolade, that is his name. The father had to do all kinds of charms, incantations, and all of that. And after so long a time, after so much of fierce endeavor, the story recalled that he was hit by some charm or whatever on his leg. And he eventually sat down. And he never stood up from that position for 14 years. He never stood up. There was nothing anybody could do to make him crawl like a baby, but he never spoke to anybody. He was not crawling. He was like that for 14 years. And after 14 years, he started speaking. Then by the age 17, he started his mission. He left the village. He just entered into a vehicle going into the town. And he arrived in Lagos, and that's how he started his mission. And he never went to school because of that, his birth growth. He never went to school like a normal child because he could not speak until that age. And when he eventually arrived there, this is somebody who has never gone to school. He had just spoken like a normal person for just about 3 years or thereabout. But he could recite all of the verses of the Bible. All whatever is in the Bible, he could quote any verse of it. And there is more and more to his stories. So I was having a conversation recently with someone, and then because Krishna's Janmashtami is coming, I gave an invitation for Janmashtami, and we're discussing about, he was curious to know about the advent of Krishna. So I was describing. So I gave him Krishna book, but then in the course of the conversation, he referenced this, and I said, well, this is not a story to me because I was part of that organization before. I knew the story. So that is the basis, background of my question. I've given this story just to give you the background. So now, we know as a devotee that there are some uncommon activities of Krishna that cannot be performed by any living entity, has never been performed by any living entities. But there are some superhuman quality, manifestation of qualities that some living entities, they perform. And sometimes they become a very powerful preacher, or sometimes they become a powerful traditionalist or whatever. So my question now is, as a follow-up to the answer you gave, could such personalities be referred to? Because that particular personality later was said, according to the understanding, that is an incarnation of Peter, one of the direct disciple of the Lord Jesus Christ. That's what people say, but nobody could have any scriptural text to back it up. So my question is, yes. So my question is, when people develop uncommon qualities, could we ascribe them to be an incarnation of God, or could it just be ordinary thing? Because incarnations of God are known according to the Vedic scriptures because they are predicted. But outside of the Vedic family, Vedic tradition, there are several living entities that were born with unique qualities like this. Where do we place such living entities?
Yeah, this is a very profound, it's a profound question. It requires a profound answer. His case is not peculiar or an isolated case. The village I come from, there is also a personality like that. Though at the moment he has passed away. But I know the man because we live in the same community. It is said that when she was conceived, when he was in the mother's womb, about the 5th month, when the mother wakes up at night, the pregnancy is gone. From the 5th month. And then by the morning, the pregnancy is back. So the mother, when she had that experience, she was wondering whether it was a dream. She observed it 3 times, and she told the husband that something strange is happening to my pregnancy. That at night, I don't feel any pregnancy. My body is light, my stomach is empty, I'm without a child. So the husband said, all right, when it happens, wake me up. It happens in the middle of the night. So next time it happens, wake me up. So when it happened, he woke the husband up. And the husband actually saw that the wife was without pregnancy. The child was gone. So they had to report the case to the village, what do they call them? Oracle or priest or whoever, something like traditional priest, that something strange is happening. So this high priest said, okay, what we'll do is that we would perform some rituals and we are going to arrest the child from wherever he's coming from, because around 4 o'clock, 4:30 a.m., that's when the woman feels the pregnancy back. So they said, all right, this child, we would charm him with mantras and rituals and herbs, and we will catch him red-handed. And actually, that's how he was born. He went out of the mother's womb. Wherever he went, on his way back, he was caught. He was not allowed to enter the mother's womb again. That's how he was born. Self-birth. And the man grew to be a great mystic in the village. Great mystic. If that man said this man is going to die tomorrow, he will die tomorrow. If somebody is traveling, he said, don't travel, better don't travel. It's like he has 3 color gear. He could see the past, present, and future. He was a great mystic. People feared him. People didn't want to go to him to predict anything about them because it will happen. So such people, he's almost in the same category with this St. Moses. So such people, they are great yogis in their previous life. They have practiced some mysticism. They have achieved some siddhis in their previous lives, and they carry it forward. And so their activities are completely different from all others. This guy in particular is a yogi. In fact, his life, he doesn't even like dressing opulently. He was dressed very simply. If you give him opulent clothes, he won't wear. He said, what is the use of decorating this body? He will always dress very simply. He was so down to earth. He was liked by his simplicity. So you can see that in his previous life, he was a great yogi. And he carried that forward into this life. So we also understand that sometimes Krishna also empowers a living entity. And that is why they are put under the category of Satyavesha. Krishna picks a particular living entity, and for a particular mission, he empowers the living entity. So we can also say some of these people are empowered by Krishna for a particular mission. As we know, Srila Prabhupada says, Christ was empowered, Muhammad was empowered, Srila Prabhupada was empowered, And many more devotees empowered because Krishna wanted to use them for a particular mission. So this and Moses, we can say that he was empowered to carry out this particular mission of instilling faith of the Holy Bible into the hearts of people. So either he was a great yogi, as they're saying, a great spiritualist, incarnation of Peter, or whatever, or any living entity was empowered by the Lord to carry out this mission in inculcating the faith of Christianity in the hearts of people. So he can belong to either of these categories, either a great yogi in a previous life that has come forward with all the mysticism he has developed, or the Lord gave him a particular mission, empowered him, and brought him into the world to do that. That is what I can say.
Thank you very much for the answer. So it makes a whole lot of sense. At least based on what you explained, at least it aligns with the Vedic scriptural text. So one can say that they are either some yogi or some empowering entity, because Prabhupada said that no one can actually exhibit some uncommon quality unless he's empowered by the Lord.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So it makes a whole lot of sense. I'll ask, there is no hand up. I don't know what devotees are very satisfied with your lecture. So they're not asking. So maybe I'll ask one more question, and then maybe if there are no other answers, then it will come. We bring it to a close. Still thinking in the line of the verse we are reading today, and then our day-to-day reality. Krishna's uncommon qualities and living entities' uncommon power. You've mentioned that if someone has practiced as a yogi in his previous life and he can exhibit some such qualities in this life, and sometimes maybe Krishna particularly empowered the living entities. Now, my question is, there was a reporter that asked the Prabhupada that does he perform miracles of magic? Because in the West, it is known that when someone is a powerful personality, you should be able to perform some miracle. And in that past time, Srila Prabhupada explained to the reporter that the greatest miracle is to turn someone who is a gross sinful person to a saintly person. And that is the greatest miracle he's performing. But then, a little bit beyond that, I wanted to ask you, if a devotee or someone who has a mystic power before coming in contact with devotional service, and it comes into devotional service, does such yogi in present or past life, whatever it's the source of his power, does mysticism or use of opulence, because I've seen all our acharyas, Jagannath Babaji specifically, there are some pastimes about his ability to be able to see beyond the persons, and he could see what they're doing. But we've never seen in our acharyas that great devotees, they exhibit these qualities. So my question is that, is it that they are intentionally suppressing it, or it is not celebrated, or it is not a part of devotional service, exhibiting the quality of mysticism?
Well, thank you for the question. Obviously, we cannot divorce mysticism from devotional service. We cannot. And we see it even in the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the life of Lord Nityananda, in the life of Gadadhara Pandit. We see these things. But we don't put a lot of emphasis on it. We don't. Even Srila Prabhupada, even Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, they have some mystic power. I've witnessed a number of times he did something extraordinary. But he didn't do it to show off. He did it when it was necessary. Even Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, when he was a child, he could predict many things. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, if you read his Vaibhav, you see when he was a child, he could predict certain things. So we cannot divorce mysticism from devotional service because it is, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that sublime knowledge is the fruit of all mysticism. Sublime knowledge is the fruit of all mysticism. So to come to the level of sublime knowledge, it means you've gone through all these levels of different mystical experiences to come to this platform of divine transcendental knowledge. But the devotees, they don't exhibit it because they don't want to distract people. They don't want to attract people to that. They want to attract people to devotion. So even though these devotees have all these mystic powers, Srila Prabhupada has mystic powers, but he hardly showed it because he did not want devotees to concentrate on that instead of bhakti. Lord Chaitanya also from time to time displayed the mystical aspect, but he did not emphasize so much on it. He didn't want to distract devotees' devotional service to that. And many other acharyas, Ramanuja Acharya, Madhava Acharya, all these acharyas, they were mystically very powerful, but they did not want to divert devotees' attention from bhakti to mysticism. In fact, sometimes the Prabhupada says that when you become a pure devotee, Krishna gives you mysticism as a bonus. Mysticism becomes a bonus. But the devotee does not even use it because he's deriving so much pleasure from devotional service that he doesn't consider mysticism anything serious, useful. So mysticism is part of this process. As we advance in Krishna consciousness, Krishna gives us these mystical powers as a bonus. But a devotee does not place much importance on these mystical feats because he wants to concentrate on his relationship with Krishna, and he doesn't want anything else to distract him from that. So some devotees are born with mystical powers. Some devotees, they are born with it, but they don't display it. Maybe on rare occasions when it becomes very, very necessary, then he applies it and again he withdraws it. So mysticism is part of the path of spiritual realization, but generally we don't highlight it. We don't emphasize on it. We may only use it when it becomes necessary. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI Prabhu, for these beautiful answers to my questions. Actually, the part of bhakti, and that sometimes I start imagining how Maharaj Parikshit was able to continuously release the mellows of question and answer about bhakti for 7 days, 7 nights. we see this experience because sometimes when you start hearing this nectar, you don't want to stop.
Hare Krishna.
But because your answers has given rise to some few other thoughts. But for the sake of time and the audience, I would stop it, maybe give opportunity for other time so that I don't keep everyone waiting here.
Okay.
So thank you very much for those beautiful answers. Thank you for. Sorry for that distraction. So thank you. We'll have opportunity to continue this line of thoughts as we have opportunity to have you on this platform. So
Hare Krishna,
on this note.
Sorry, Hare Krishna.
Okay, Srimad
Prabhu.
Yes,
Please accept my body.
Jai, all glories to Gurudev, glories to Prabhupada.
All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to you.
All glories to you too.
Thank you very much. It's been very enlightening hearing you. I have some questions, pertaining to impersonalism. I had some discussion with some impersonalists, and he kind of drilled me with the question I want to put back to you. He said, why are we believing that in the statement that Krishna's form is Sashitananda? Vigraha, that is Vigraha is Sashitananda. He asked me, tell me the meaning of that. I said, eternity, knowledge, knowledge and bliss. He said, yeah, so tell me how eternity is a form. And how is eternity knowledge? How is knowledge is a form? How is bliss is a form? So can't you see that you are contradicting yourself? So, I mean, we repeat this, certainly. Krishna's form is Sashitananda, is eternal bliss and eternal knowledge and bliss. And he said, come on, stop saying God has form. What the scripture is telling you that he has no form. Eternity has no form, knowledge has no form, bliss has no form. Just tell me if it is right or not. And I was just looking at him, So what would you say to that kind of a person?
Yes. It's interesting that he says, bliss has no form, knowledge has no form, eternity has no form. That is their understanding. That is their take. In fact, Sanajiva Goswami, he says in the Sandarbhas that Krishna is Achintya. Krishna's form is Achintya. Krishna's activities are Achintya. And in fact, the whole Tattva, Krishna Tattva, is Achintya. Inconceivable. And Jiva Goswami says that if a person who wants to understand bhakti, who wants to understand Krishna, does not accept the inconceivability of Krishna, the inconceivability of Krishna's form, the inconceivability of Krishna's name, the inconceivability of Krishna Lila, then that a person cannot succeed in bhakti. These are the words of Jiva Goswami, our scholarly Jiva Goswami. It's an authority. And Digvijaya came to Vrindavan to debate with Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they considered it a waste of time debating with this Digvijaya. They were not ready to debate with him, so they rather preferred to sign his register, because he had a register. Anybody he defeated, you will sign a register, then you have accepted defeat, and you are subordinate, you are a disciple of this Digvijaya. So Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they did not want to debate uselessly with this person. They preferred to sign the document that they have been defeated. And they have accepted a subordinate position to this Digvijaya. By then, Jiva Goswami was just a young lad. He was a young boy. And he was studying under Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami was his guru. So when Jiva Goswami, then this man, after he got Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami to sign his register, he went around Vrindavan boasting that who is this Jiva Goswami, who is this Rupa Goswami, who is this Sanatana Goswami? They are afraid of me. People are describing them as scholars of Vrindavan, but when I challenge them, they have all put their tails under their legs and they've run away. They've signed as subordinates. He was going around telling everybody this. And so when Jiva Goswami heard this, he challenged the man. He challenged the Digvijaya to a debate. And Jiva Goswami, he defeated this Digvijaya. He ridiculed him, and the man disappeared from Vrindavan in the night. He was so ashamed. He was so disgraced. He was so embarrassed. He was so ridiculed. He did not allow the day to break in Vrindavan. He ran away. That's Jiva Goswami. Of course, when Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami heard this, they were not happy with Jiva Goswami, particularly Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami banished Jiva from Vrindavan. Yes, he banished him. He said, "You are full of pride. Therefore, you don't deserve to live in Vrindavan. So you are banished. Get out of Vrindavan." So Jiva Goswami had to pack his bag and baggage and left Vrindavan, went to Mathura, and lived in the cave of a crocodile, fasting, only eating mud from the Yamuna and chanting day and night. But the point here is, such a great philosopher, well-known philosopher, with all the knowledge at the tips of his fingers, he came to Vrindavan boasting of his knowledge. And Jiva Goswami, a young lad, a young boy, defeated him, embarrassed him, ridiculed him, and sent him packing out of Vrindavan. And it's Jiva who is saying that Krishna is inconceivable. He's achintya. His pastimes are inconceivable. They are achintya. His form is inconceivable. They are achintya. Everything about Krishna is achintya. And the basis of bhakti is that we must accept this inconceivability. If we don't, then we cannot practice bhakti. So if such an authority like Jiva Goswami makes such a statement, who are we to challenge that statement? Krishna's form is inconceivable. Krishna's knowledge, Krishna's bliss, Krishna's activities, all of these are inconceivable. Only the devotees, the pure devotees, they can understand to some degree of these things. And a personalist like him, he has no qualification to understand the inconceivability of Krishna's form. He has no grounds to challenge the authority of a personality like Jiva Goswami. These are my comments. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srimas Vara Prabhu, hope that answers your question. Anyway, maybe he's busy. Thank you very much.
Prabhu, are you there?
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Jai. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Of course, it kind of calms my mind a little bit.
Thank you.
That's good. That's good.
Yes. Of course, it's a good answer that God is inconceivable. There's no doubt about that. Now, my only fear is that they can also use that argument also that that is inconceivable from the point of view that is formless. So how do we go from there? So anyway, but thank you, because the fact that God is inconceivable, so that closes it. But the only thing is that if they use that argument also, so then we are on the same level again.
Well, I think that situation is, we just tell them, all right, we come from the Baptist school.
Right.
And in our Baptist school, we understand that the Supreme Being has a form. You come from Sankarite school of thought. And in the Sankarite school of thought, they say the Supreme is formless. Keep your formlessness with you, and let us keep our form with us.
Yeah. That's a very sarcastic way of doing it.
Yeah.
Finish. Keep what you think is good for you. This is good for us. This is what we keep. We are not forcing you to join us. You can't force us to join you. It has always been like this from time immemorial.
Yeah. So that Shaitan said,
That's right. That's
simultaneously one and different.
Yeah. Simultaneously one and different. That's true. That's true. I think Harijakra Prabhu's hand is up.
Thank you very much, Sriman Vara Prabhu, for that beautiful question. Actually, I've had a beautiful conversation like that with one impersonalist student. One time I went to give a lecture, and he was asking that to say something similar to that. So, and because I knew, just like you said from the in the course of your explanation, that it doesn't have the adhikar, it doesn't have the qualification to be able to understand, even if you try to give it doesn't have the adhikar. So when that student asked me, what I did was I did like Prabhupada, Prabhupada just inspired my mind. So when he was asking that, what is the source of eternity, and what is that God is eternal and is formless. Actually, he's an Ekanka. He is a student of Ekanka. So I told him, I said, where does eternality come from? So I said, if you could answer my question, where does eternality come from? Then I can. Then we went into defining what is eternality. Eternality means that which is infinite. That which is infinite, where does it come from? So then I quote Aham Savasya Prabhupada that Krishna says that infinity is also coming from him. But if you can tell me where infinity comes from, then I will be able to answer. So he became speechless. He couldn't answer it. He can't explain where eternity comes from. But I said, that eternity that you are talking about comes from somewhere. And someone said that is also coming from me. But it's good. I appreciate your answers about Jiva Goswami's story you just mentioned. It's interesting. Our philosophy is so powerful.
No, it's powerful. It's powerful.
So powerful. Thank you so much.
I think I will also add that, the case between Lord Chaitanya and Prakashananda. When Lord Chaitanya met Prakashananda in Benares, initially Prakashananda and they were Mayavadis, they were Shankarites, they were impersonalists. And so they were making a jest of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that a young sannyasi like him, he's not studying Vedanta Sutras and he's dancing on the streets. They were criticizing him. And so one devotee heard it and he was not feeling comfortable. So he went to tell Lord Chaitanya that these Mayavadis, they are criticizing you. So please, my dear Lord, go and enlighten them. And Lord Chaitanya said, I will never see their faces. I would not want to be in the association. So despite the pleading and appeals, Lord Chaitanya brushed aside that devotee request, and he passed on to Vrindavan. On his way back from Vrindavan, again he stopped in Benares. And this devotee again approached him and started begging and pleading that, please, if you don't go and deliver these Mayavadis, nobody else can deliver them. And I'm sure that you are the only one who can really help these people. So please, go and deliver them. So upon pleading and pleading and pleading, finally Lord Chaitanya agreed. And he went into the assembly of Mayavadis. And when Lord Chaitanya went there, we know the story, he sat at the place where they washed their feet. He sat in a very humble place, in a very humble manner. And initially they neglected him. They were thinking, oh, it's just some sentimental sannyasi sitting in a low place, so they didn't bother. But because they were advanced in their meditation on the Brahmanjoti, Prakashananda could see that that Brahmanjoti they're meditating on was coming from the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was shocking for them. So they immediately changed their understanding. They invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come up to the dais where the elevated senior Mayava sannyasis were sitting. They invited Mahaprabhu to come up there and sit. And Mahaprabhu said, no, I'm okay here. I'm comfortable here. But they pleaded and pleaded, and finally Mahaprabhu joined them on the dais. And then an argument ensued. A philosophical argument ensued. Prakashananda asked Lord Chaitanya, why you, a young sannyasi, your business is to study the Vedanta Sutra. That will make you mature. That will give you knowledge. That will give you strength. But now we see that you are singing and dancing on the street with very low-class people. This is not befitting for a sannyasi. Why are you doing that? And Lord Chaitanya humbly said, well, my spiritual master realized or recognized my foolishness, that I don't have the intelligence to study Vedanta Sutras. So he gave me a mantra and said, just chant this mantra and dance. And I started chanting and dancing, and the results are just fantastic. I'm so happy with that mantra. Now I went back to my Guru and asked him, what kind of mantra have you given me? This mantra is amazing. What is this? And the spiritual master smiled and said, very good, go ahead, chant and dance. And I've been singing and dancing because I do not have the understanding. I don't have the adhikar to study Vedanta Sutra. And then he asked Prakashananda a question about Vedanta Sutra. And Prakashananda began to explain, and Lord Chaitanya took up the matter and defeated him and rubbished their Vedanta Sutra and established the importance of Krishna consciousness, the personality of Godhead, the chanting of the names, the bliss of Krishna consciousness. And when Lord Chaitanya started the kirtan the next day, many of the disciples of Prakashananda, they joined the Harinam party. And when Prakashananda heard some of his followers were with Lord Chaitanya dancing, he went to see. And he also became attracted. And lo and behold, Prakashananda Saraswati and all the entire Mayavad society of Benares, they all joined Lord Chaitanya in singing and dancing on the streets of Benares. And so it is said, the day when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu converted everyone in Benares into Vaishnavism, it's recorded in the history of Benares. Now, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Benares, he converted every person, including the Mayavadis, into Vaishnavas by his potency. So this debate has always been there from time immemorial. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he showed the way. Now there is something superior. Great personalities like Prakashananda Saraswati, they could not stand the arguments of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They had to succumb, they had to surrender, and they had to become Vaishnavas. So from this angle, we can see that even though they may think they know everything, they have everything, but they lack the bliss of Krishna consciousness. And when they taste it, they take it. Hare Krishna. Our host is gone. Maybe we've lost him. So Hare Chakra Prabhu, I think you can just unmute and ask your question. The host is gone. I can't find him.
No, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much for
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
the elaborate explanations and yeah. What I have is not a question, but I was just commenting on the question Varaha Prabhu asked. That,
Okay, great.
Somebody asked. It was not a similar question, but another question in another form. And it was the same Varaha Prabhu who answered that question. And the way he answered the question, I think that answer also answers this question he's giving.
I see. Wonderful.
Because
so remind him.
Somebody asked a question, and Varaha Prabhu was saying that the living entities, some of the living entities, they only see in one dimensional, linear dimension. They only see in linear dimension. Some living entities see in 2 dimensions.
Okay.
And others see in 3 dimensions.
That's right.
Of course, those who see in linear dimension, they would never have any idea about things that are seen in 2 dimensions.
And what to speak of the 3 dimension?
What to speak of 3 dimensions? Unless,
right.
and he said, we human beings, we see like in I think 3 dimensions.
Okay.
And so things that are 4 dimensions, it becomes impossible for us. That doesn't mean that they can't be seen. But if your consciousness is elevated to the level where you can see 4 dimensions, then you can even enter anything, even a box, a four-way box that has been covered all that. If you are able to see in 4-dimensional way, you can even enter the box without opening the box. Because so the way Varaha Prabhu answered that question, and this question is asking that the impersonalist was saying that knowledge, how can we say knowledge as a form? How can we say bliss as a form? We can as well say, how can mind have a form? Because we say the subtle body is the combination of mind, intelligence, and ego. So how can mind have a form? To the ordinary person, if you say the mind has a form, the person will challenge you, how can the mind have a form? Or how can intelligence have a form? And I remember that there is a common video that goes on WhatsApp where this professor was asking one little girl, so how did you pass your exam? And the little girl was saying, oh, by the grace of God. And the professor said, there is no God.
Yeah.
The professor said, there is no God. And the little girl said, who told you there's no God? And the professor asked the little girl, have you ever seen God? The little girl said, no. And the professor said, so why do you believe in him? Why are you saying there is God? And the little girl asked the professor, I think you don't have a mind. And the professor said, why are you talking like that? And the little girl said, have you ever seen your mind? The professor said, no. He said, if you have not seen your mind, then you don't have a mind. If you are arguing that if I have not seen God, then there is no God, then if you have not seen your mind, then you don't have a mind. So you are not even somebody we can talk with because you don't have a mind. So similarly, like I said, the explanation Varaha Prabhu gave, it has stuck in my mind that seeing things in different dimensions it has stuck in my mind so much that there are certain things I realize that as long as we are not seeing in those dimensions, then we only need authority, those who have the vision to see in that dimension, to tell us what is happening in that dimension. Other than that,
exactly.
Unless we beg them to train us to come to the level where we can also see in the 4-dimensional way, then we can understand those things.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Thank you, Arishaka Prabhu, for that reminder.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for the contributions.
That story you said, the professor, that he has no sense. He asked him,
Yes,
can you see your sense? Senses? He said no. And that means you have no sense.
Is that
I've seen that video.
you have no sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been 2 hours, 15 minutes here. Thank you so much for your contributions and comments. Thank you very much, His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI, for this beautiful class. So on this note, I will request all of the devotees to please kindly all unmute. Let us loudly chant a loud Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to appreciate His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI for this beautiful class. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vacha karva taruja His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI Prabhu ki
jai. Swami ki jai. Govinda Prabhu, I didn't hear your question today.